Ahoy there, history buffs and adventure seekers. When you hear the word pirate, what comes to mind? Is it swashbuckling chaos on the high seas? Buried treasure, marked with an X? Or maybe a charismatic, rum-swilling captain with a parrot on his shoulder? While all that makes for a great story, the reality of the golden age of piracy, roughly from the 1650s to the 1730s, was far more complex and, believe it or not, surprisingly orderly. Forget the image of lawless brutes. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of pirate codesta, very documents that turned a ship of outlaws into one of the most progressive democracies of its time. So, what exactly was a pirate code? Think of it as a constitution for the ship. Before a voyage even began, the entire crew would gather to draft or agree upon a set of articles. This wasn't a top-down decree from the captain. Every single man had a say and had to sign or make his mark on the document. By doing so, they pledged to uphold the laws of their floating society. This act alone was revolutionary. Back on land, the common man had virtually no say in his own governance. But on a pirate ship, you were a citizen with a voice. Let's look at one of the most famous examples. The Code of Captain Bartholomew Roberts, also known as Black Bart. His articles give us a crystal-clear window into pirate life. The first article was simple but profound. Every man has a vote in the affairs of the moment. Every man had equal title to the fresh provisions or strong liquors, and could use them at pleasure, unless a scarcity made it necessary for the good of all to vote a retrenchment. This established a flat hierarchy. The captain was a leader, not a dictator. He was elected by the crew and, more importantly, he could be deposed by the crew if they weren't happy with his leadership. Imagine trying to vote out a Royal Navy captain. You'd be swinging from a yardarm before breakfast. But democracy didn't stop with voting for the captain. The quartermaster, who was arguably the second most powerful person on board, was also elected. While the captain led in battle, the quartermaster handled the day-to-day discipline and, most importantly, the division of the loot. This created a brilliant system of checks and balances. The captain couldn't just hoard all the treasure for himself. The quartermaster, representing the crew's interests, ensured every man received his fair share, as laid out in the articles. And the shares were incredibly specific. Most codes stipulated that the captain and quartermaster would receive a double share, or perhaps a share and a half. Other officers like the master gunner or bosun might get a share and a quarter, but the ordinary seaman, he received a full single share. Compare this to a privateering vessel or a naval ship, where the vast majority of the prize money went to the owners, investors, and high-ranking officers, leaving the common sailors with scraps. On a pirate ship, you risked your life, but the rewards were shared with a sense of fairness that was unheard of. But what happened if you were injured? This is where the pirate codes moved from democratic to downright progressive. They had a system of workers' compensation. Bartholomew Roberts' code, like many others, had a detailed payment plan for injuries sustained in the line of duty. If a man lost a limb, say, a right arm, he would receive 600 pieces of 8 from the common stock. A left arm was worth 500, as was a right leg. A left leg, 400 and 100. This money was paid out before the rest of the treasure was divided. These pirates created a social safety net, ensuring that a crewmate who made a sacrifice for the good of the ship was unjust cast aside. For the era, this was an astonishingly humane system. Now, don't get me wrong, pirate life wasn't a utopian paradise. These codes also laid out strict rules and brutal punishments. The goal was to maintain order and prevent the kind of internal conflicts that could tear a crew apart. For instance, deserting the ship or your post in battle was often punishable by death, or marooning, being left on a deserted island with a flask of water, a pistol, and a single shot. A less severe, but still serious, offense was bringing a woman onto the ship in disguise, which also often resulted in a death sentence. Why? It was seen as a source of jealousy and deadly conflict. Fighting amongst the crew was strictly forbidden on board. Any disputes had to be settled on shore, with a duel of pistol and cutlass. The quartermaster would officiate to ensure a semblance of fairness. Other rules were about practicality. Lights and candles were to be put out by 8 o'clock at night. If any of the crew wanted to keep drinking after that hour, they had to do it on the open deck, in the dark. This was a fire safety measure on a wooden ship filled with gunpowder. Simple, but smart. Stealing from a fellow crewmate was one of the worst crimes you could commit. The trust between shipmates was paramount. The punishment was often slitting the ears and nose of the thief and setting him ashore, making him an outcast wherever he went. So why did these outlaws create such ordered societies? It was born from experience. Most pirates were former sailors from the Royal Navy or merchant ships. They had lived under the brutal and often arbitrary rule of tyrannical captains. They knew what it was like to be cheated out of their wages, flogged for minor infractions, and fed maggot-infested food. Life at sea was harsh, and life under official command was often worse. Piracy for them wasn't just about getting rich, it was about freedom. It was a rebellion against an oppressive system. They weren't just escaping the law, they were creating their own, better laws. They called themselves Brethren of the Coast for a reason. They were a brotherhood, bound by a shared code of conduct and a mutual desire for liberty and self-determination. The pirate code was the glue that held their volatile world together. It provided structure, fairness, and a sense of justice that was absent in their former lives. It ensured that every man, from the captain to the lowest swab, knew the rules and knew his rights. It allowed a diverse group of desperate men from all corners of the globe to coexist and work together toward a common goal. This floating democracy, forged in the crucible of rebellion, was a radical social experiment. It demonstrated that even on the fringes of society, people crave order, fairness, and a voice in their own destiny. The golden age of piracy was short-lived, but its legacy is more than just treasure maps and skull flags. It's the story of how a band of outcasts created a society that, in many ways, was decades ahead of its time. It is a powerful reminder that the desire for justice and a fair shake isn't just for law-abiding citizens, it's a fundamental human drive. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the real world of pirates. If you found this as fascinating as I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. Let me know in the comments which part of the pirate code surprised you the most. Until next time, stay curious.